Good afternoon, 8th grade Bobcats. Mr. Flato here. Welcome back to another week at the Helena Middle School. On today's B.O.B Lesson, which will be titled, Are You a Boiling Frog? Going to talk about the little habits that start to set in our life, and maybe more importantly, the rationalizations that we make in regards to those little habits that set in. There's a quote out there that says, everything in moderation. And what that really means is there's some things that we do as human beings, like I'll use an example of maybe having a dessert. I love dessert, love my Ben & Jerry's, my Haagen-Dazs ice cream, and that's okay. That's healthy for you in moderation. Generally, when I have a Haagen-Dazs or Ben & Jerry's, I only have half. Okay, and one of the things I've noticed is that if I have half one time, tastes good, it's awesome, whatever. But if I start on a habit of that and half a pint, or a pint every day, all of a sudden I start to physically feel it catching up to me with my health. And so there's a plethora of things out there when I think of this, and I'm going to give some examples today with missing school, or not eating healthy, or one that I'd like to add is experimenting, drugs, alcohol, vaping, some of those things. As you get older and there are more vices and more temptation to do some of these things, I think sometimes we tell ourselves only doing it one time, only doing it one time, or only doing it one time a day, where all these things, they start to accumulate, they start to add up, and then it really starts affecting our lives. So I hope you like this B.O.B lesson. For those animal lovers out there, know ahead of time there was no frog that was injured in this first video. So I hope you guys like this video. Make it a great week.
Frog is a cold-blooded animal, and humans are warm-blooded, so our body burns energy or perspires to maintain the same 98.6 degrees. The cold-blooded frog's body temperature goes up and down with the temperature of its surroundings. Although frogs love water, when I hold it over this pot of boiling water, this frog is very uncomfortable and climbs to get away from it. Now, the water in this pot is room temperature, 69.4 degrees, so he's comfortable when I put him in. If I turn the burner on low flame, his body temperature will adjust and slowly he will heat up with the water. The water temperature has risen to 80 degrees and the frog is the same temperature and still comfortable. If I turn up the burner slowly again, he won't notice because he'll continue to change to be the same as his surroundings. When we started, I held the frog over the first pot of boiling water. He was uncomfortable and he tried to get away from the heat. But now, because we're raising the temperature slowly, he doesn't recognize the danger he's in. He just keeps going along with the changes in his surroundings. Eventually, we can turn up the burner to a deadly boil. He will just keep trying to adjust with it. By the time he realizes it's killing him, it's too late. He won't notice in time because he just keeps changing himself to go along with the changes in his surroundings.
All right, this B.O.B lesson is going to be titled, Are You a Boiling Frog? But first, let's be our best this week at HMS. Let's be B.O.B. Let's be safe. Let's be responsible. Let's be respectful. Let's be a learner. All right, on today's B.O.B lesson, going to talk about habits and how important habits are in our everyday life. We habitually become what we do. All right, on today's B.O.B lesson, I'm going to talk about habits and going to compare how middle school students and human beings in general become a frog in boiling water. This is a metaphor that I'm going to use, and what I'm really trying to hit on today is we do things, we make decisions every day, and we rationalize why it's okay, but over time it slowly starts to build. So today's first example is you could be a boiling frog if you consistently miss a day, a week, or more of school and rationalize it by saying something like, it's just one day of school, I can make it up tomorrow. One day of school we miss, okay, probably not a huge deal, but when it consistently becomes 1 day, 2 days the following week, 1 day the following week, and then 3 days the following week, and we add all those days up of learning we are missing, becomes very, very substantial. When you get to high school next year, there is a cap on how many days you can miss, and if you miss so many days more than that, you simply do not get credit. So we got to get in the habit now. I know it's just 1 day, and we tell ourselves it's just 1 day, and then that becomes our new norm, and that becomes a new habit that we have. Next slide. You could be a boiling frog if you consistently don't do all of your schoolwork. And you may rationalize this as, I do most of my work. I understand the concepts. I don't actually have to go through the steps of doing it. Well, there's a reason that your teachers have you go through those steps and do that work to try it on, see where we get, see what we don't get, make corrections, make adjustments. Teachers need to know what you're understanding and what you're not doing. But so much of life is being industrious. That means having a work ethic, accomplishing something, achieving something. So if you consistently don't achieve all of your workload, you're gradually going to fail. When you get a job someday, you don't get to pick and choose and do 70% of your job. If you only do 70% of your job, you're going to be looking for a new job because you're going to get fired someday. All of the missing work that we do, it gradually adds up and it can sink us down. All right, the last slide is you could be a boiling frog if you consistently aren't getting enough sleep, exercise, eating healthy food, getting self-care, all of those lifestyle things. And you may rationalize it as, I can stay up late tonight and I'll catch up on my sleep another time. Well, you stay up late tonight and then you're dragging the next day and you're not performing as best as you could. Or you could take a day off from an exercise routine if hopefully you are on one. Exercise routine, if I take more than 2 days off, I can definitely feel myself not feeling my best mentally, physically, emotionally. Or maybe you have cheat days in your diet and you eat lots of junk food. When you get to be my age or a little bit older, right now you guys can get away with not exercising, get away with having cheat days and eating junk food, and it doesn't really catch up to you. When you get to be my age, you have a couple of those days and you just start feeling different. You start feeling not your best. Or maybe you get away from your self-care and you work yourself too hard and you don't take time every day, every week to do something that is taking care of yourself. So you could be a boiling frog and slowly changing and not really realizing it if we get off of our sleep, our exercise, eating healthy, taking care of our bodies, taking care of our minds and our souls. That brings us to this week's quote of the week, which comes from Aristotle, which is, we are what we repeatedly do. That's the habits that I'm talking about. Success is not an action, but a habit. It's how we live our life every single day. It's the decisions that we consistently make. It's being in a routine. I was a little short on time on today's B.O.B lesson, and I could have came up with a lot more ideas of middle school students and the habits we make, where we're not making great habits and we're slowly boiling, and we don't really realize it. You guys, I encourage you to think about what are some of the habits you do that maybe aren't good habits, that maybe are starting to accumulate, and then one day you look in the mirror and you realize, wow, this isn't who I wanted to be or how I wanted to be or in the situation I wanted to be. Hope you guys enjoyed that. And that takes us to this week's Jellybean Question of the Week winners, who are Abby Jaquez, Shelby Williams, Maria Mosier, Zachariah Beeman, and Evie Linden. The answer last week was Mount Rushmore. What four-man rock group doesn't sing? This week's Jellybean Question of the Week is, I can breathe but never talk. I can run but never walk. I can be picked but never be chosen. What am I? If you think you know, submit your answer to the Bob Box no later than Friday. Tune in next week to see if you are a winner. All right, Bobcats, let's go and make it a great week at the Helen Middle School.